kitchen. I'm Scott, and through this series of videos, I'm going to show you how to create really delicious restaurant quality meals for yourself, your family, and your friends. And today's episode is actually based on an email I received just a couple days ago from a viewer I have down in Florida. And she asked if I had any recipes that would be good for her to take along when she and her family go tailgating for football games. And I do. And this recipe is good for tailgating, it's good for the 4th of July, it's good for picnics, it's good for dinners just out in the backyard during the summer, and that's pulled pork sandwiches. And my recipe that I've come up with is actually based on a memory that I had of these delicious pulled pork sandwiches at a place in Louisiana called Grayson's BBQ. It's in between Shreveport and Natchitoches. If you're ever down there, look it up because they have the best. So my recipe is based on that. So let's go in the kitchen and get started. Pulled pork sandwiches, and these are delicious. One thing I need to let y'all know, this recipe is actually in two parts. The first part will actually create the dry rub. We're going to rub that on the pork, put that in the refrigerator overnight, 12 hours. Tomorrow we'll take that out and we'll actually cook it off. So we'll do the dry rub now. For the ingredients, this uses quite a bit of dry spices. One thing you need to make sure you do is buy these spices often. If you store it in your cupboard for a year or so, those spices don't have any flavor left. So go ahead and buy new spices when you can. The ingredients you'll need for the pulled pork dry rub is 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of coarse salt, 2 tablespoons of paprika, 1 tablespoon of ground pepper, a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of dry mustard, and dry mustard's in there with the spices also, a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a teaspoon of onion powder. The pork, what I have here is a 3.5 pound pork butt. Your butcher might call it pork butt. It's actually the shoulder portion of the pig, so you might also say pork shoulder. It's 3.5 pounds of that. You're going to need a bowl and a whisk to get these ingredients together in. So all you do is you dump them all in. And these last few of the dry ingredients. You want to make sure you have a whisk because that's actually going to help you break up that brown sugar, which is going to be the hardest thing to incorporate. And I'm going to get all this incorporated, which it is nicely. Once you get to that stage, you're just going to dump this on top of your pork. You're going to use your hands. It's a little bit messy, but not too bad. And you're just going to rub this in. The pork itself will actually have natural crevices where the fat sort of separates the meat. You want to get that spice rub into those cracks because that's going to give it lots of flavor. So we're going to get this completely covered. All of the spice rub should stick to it if you're really diligent about getting it down into the cracks and crevices and all over the pork butt. So we've gotten all the spice rub mixed onto this pork butt. I've washed my hands off, which is very important. Whenever you deal with raw pork or poultry, any of those types of meats, you want to make sure you wash your hands really well. And if the pork had gotten on the countertop or on the cutting board, you would want to make sure that you scrub that down pretty good too. Alright, so we got it all rubbed on. I'm going to cover this, put it in the refrigerator, and let it sit overnight, about 12 hours. One thing I want to let you guys know, because I know I'm going to get emails on this, I'm using a boneless pork butt. If you have a bone-in pork butt or pork shoulder, feel free to use that. It's just going to increase the cooking time slightly, probably 45 minutes to an hour. Alright, so we'll get this out tomorrow and we'll get ready to cook. The pork was in the refrigerator for about 18 hours. You could leave that in almost up to 24 hours. I've just taken it out, uncovered it, and noticed there was a little bit of liquid in the bowl, and that's just because the salt that was in that dry rub mixture pulling out a little bit of the juice from the pork, but that is just fine. What we're going to do is we have 3 cups of apple juice, 2 cups of water. I also have a roasting pan fitted with a rack that's going to hold that pork above the level of the liquid, and a large piece of aluminum foil that we're going to cover this really tightly with. So all you have to do is take your apple juice and your water, pour that down into the bottom. We're going to get the pork out of its bowl. Set that right in the center of the rack. The remaining spice rub, you just want to pull that out of the bottom, rub it over the top, because that's going to create a really nice crust on this as it cooks. So what I've done is I've preheated my oven to 300 degrees. And one thing I wanted to let you guys know is that you could do this entire recipe on your smoker if you have one. Obviously you wouldn't use a roasting pan. You take the pork as it is right now, put that onto the rack, and fill that liquid reservoir with the liquid mixture that we've made of the apple juice and the water. But for today's purposes, we're doing this in the oven. So what I have to do now that everything is assembled is take the foil, and you want to tightly cover this. You want to make the seal as tight as possible on this to keep all the juices into the pork. Just getting this foil really tightly crimped around the edges of my roasting pan. And as I said a minute ago, we have a 300-degree oven set for this. And what that's going to do, it's going to give it a really slow, long cooking time. This is a relatively inexpensive cut of meat. And when you were rubbing it, you might have noticed how much fat marbling there was in it. And what the heat of this is going to do over such a long period of time is really start to melt that fat and basically baste your meat as it's cooking for the 5 hours. So we got that really tightly covered. Going to get this into the oven, close the door, and leave this for 5 hours. Don't open up the oven, just leave it alone. Set your timer, and we'll come back in 5 hours and finish it up. The timer just went off, so I know it's been 5 hours since I put the pork into the oven. What we need to do now is take it out. We're going to take the foil off of it, put it back in for an additional 30 minutes while it browns up a little bit. The foil just has to come off, and it is looking really good. Just going to take a fork and it is so tender, it's going to fall right apart, and that's exactly what we want it to do. So I'm going to put it back in the oven for 30 minutes. Let it brown up just a little bit, and then we'll take it back out and shred it up. The timer just went off, so I know that 30 minutes is up. I'm going to turn the oven off, because we're not going to be needing that, and get this delicious piece of pork out of the oven. Alright, so we're going to let this sit for 10 minutes while it cools enough so that we can handle it, and then we'll put it into the bowl and start shredding it up. The pork has cooled nicely. It's been about 12 minutes. I'm just going to pick this up and put it into our bowl, and it more than likely will fall apart. Yes, it will. And that's just fine. Just get it into the bowl. We got all the pork in there. I actually had to use a spoon also because it kind of broke up. So now just take 2 forks, and you're going to go through here and pull this pork apart, just as in the name, pulled pork. We got it all broken up, not too finely, but in nice sized bits that will work well on a sandwich. So to this, while this was cooking this afternoon, I actually took some time and made some barbecue sauce, but by all means you could use your favorite jarred brand if you prefer that. So we're going to add enough to this, not to make it completely soggy, but enough to moisten it, add a little bit more flavor. And at this point, it is ready to serve. I actually have a baker that's down the street that makes really good potato rolls. So that's what I do. I serve this out on the table with the platter of the pulled pork right beside it, pickles, other accompaniments, and let people just put their own sandwiches together. So let's get one plated up. So grab one of these potato rolls, some of the pulled pork. If you are making these for a picnic or to go somewhere, they can, like I said earlier, stay at room temperature, which is just fine. Go ahead and make your sandwiches, wrap them up individually in foil, and then they're ready to eat. So here we go. I love them. The potato rolls are perfect for covering these. Alright, I'm going to get cleaned up and then we'll finish. Pulled pork sandwiches. As you can see, they're not that hard to get together, and they are really, really good. Alright, so take care, thanks again for watching, and as always, feel free to email me at scottindenver@msn.com if you'd like to make a comment on the show or to ask me to demo a particular recipe for you. So take care, see you soon, bye.